Mobile technology has convinced corporate training departments that delivery is the exact same thing as learning. The current thinking is, if you build a sleek, gamified micro-learning module and put it on a smartphone, the workforce will automatically absorb the material. But this build it and they will use it mentality is a fallacy. Deploying content to a screen in short bursts does not guarantee that anyone will actually change how they do their job. Even with modern delivery methods, human performance and long-standing organizational habits do not pivot overnight. And as corporate learning budgets shrink, leadership no longer accepts high participation rates as proof of success. They require hard data proving a return on the investment. To justify those budgets, training departments have to engineer a dual-axis measurement protocol before they author a single piece of content. Axis 1 focuses outward. This tracks the effectiveness of the training on the employee and measures its ultimate impact on the business's bottom line. Axis 2 focuses inward. This audits the efficiency of the internal development pipeline and tests the training team's own operational capabilities. Without establishing both of these axes from the start, an organization will never know exactly why an initiative succeeded or failed, making continuous improvement impossible. Let's start with Axis 1, effectiveness. The most common error in corporate learning is treating evaluation as an afterthought. You have to build the measurement strategy first. That strategy requires defining 6 foundational variables: who, what, why, when, where, and how. First, you determine exactly who you are evaluating. Are you looking at just the learners or their managers as well? Then, you isolate what specific target behaviors matter to the assessment. The why ties the entire effort to a concrete business outcome. This maps the evaluation to a departmental KPI, like reducing a specific type of operational error. Next, you decide when to collect the data and where that collection happens, whether it's a digital survey on a mobile device or a physical observation on the production floor. Finally, the how dictates the literal tools or mechanisms you will use to capture that feedback. Answering these 6 questions gathers the raw ingredients for your assessment, but to process them properly, you need an operational framework. Defining these variables forces the training team to isolate exactly which business metric they intend to shift, locking the scope of the project in place. The industry standard for processing those variables is the Kirkpatrick-Katzel 4 levels of evaluation. To see how this engine works in practice, look at a compliance department tasked with reducing critical reporting errors across an organization. This table outlines the evaluation plan for their microlearning initiative. Notice how the top 2 rows explicitly lock in the problem scope, what is being evaluated, and why. Moving down to the first 2 levels, reaction and learning, we see the immediate evaluation. This is where online self-checks and multiple-choice questions verify that the material was actually understood at the time of delivery. Level 3 shifts to behavior, and here we see a necessary adaptation for microlearning. The evaluation expands. Both the learner and their manager are surveyed to see if the knowledge is actually being applied on the job. Because behavior doesn't change instantly, this evaluation is staggered at 1-month and 3-month intervals after the initial training. Finally, Level 4 measures return on investment. This is where the organization proves whether the microlearning actually closed the gap on the known compliance issue. This ROI tracking extends to the half-year and full-year marks, establishing a long-term comparison between the baseline data and the post-initiative results. Operationally, running these evaluations through digital assessments minimizes disruption, keeping employees on their primary money-making tasks instead of pulling them into a classroom. By mapping this framework across a full 12 months, the organization turns a disposable 5-minute lesson into a verified long-term tool for modifying behavior.
We can see this longitudinal tracking pay off in a real-world application from John Hancock Investments' 2014 learning transformation. The firm faced serious corporate risk, a highly complex financial landscape, constant regulatory updates, and new hires overwhelmed by the sheer volume of compliance data. Their intervention was strict and targeted. They deployed high-priority microlearning sessions directly to employees' devices, requiring less than 5 minutes of engagement per day. The sessions relied on a learning science principle called retrieval practice. Employees answered 3 to 5 questions that repeated at expanding intervals along a timeline. As the data came in, management used real-time dashboards to track individual participation rates against specific coaching needs, plotting the results side by side. The platform captured over 90% participation, and the analytics revealed a direct mathematical correlation to a reduction in employee errors. The John Hancock data proves that rapid, daily inputs, when paired with rigorous, long-term analytics, successfully mitigate organizational risk. But measuring the learner's outcome is only half of the required evaluation equation. If a solid microlearning initiative fails to produce results, the issue isn't always pedagogical. The failure often stems from an internal resource constraint, an exhausted budget, or a disjointed deployment strategy. To audit the internal development pipeline, instructional design teams need a different diagnostic tool, the SWOT analysis. This matrix breaks down the exact operational factors of the internal team that built our compliance training example. Looking at the top left quadrant, we identify the internal strengths. Here, the team notes what went right during production, like utilizing experienced staff and having immediate access to subject matter experts. Moving to the top right, we evaluate the weaknesses. This exposes operational vulnerabilities, such as uncomfortably short development timelines and a lack of coordination when marketing the module to employees. Down in the opportunities quadrant, the team isolates actionable fixes. They can map out future content more strategically, or lean on pre-existing style guides to speed up production. Finally, the threats quadrant calls out critical dangers. For this team, the biggest risks were failing to execute evaluations past level 1 and failing to secure full buy-in from key stakeholders. Running this analysis acts as a strict prioritization exercise. It forces the department to address their immediate workflow bottlenecks before starting the next project. If a SWOT matrix doesn't align with corporate culture, teams can use a 4-factor framework to evaluate the exact same operational footprint, analyzing their internal cost, resources, processes, and sustainment plans. Evaluating Axis 2 prevents instructional designers from repeating expensive operational mistakes, safeguarding the future capacity of the entire department. Ultimately, these two axes form a continuous, closed-loop feedback system. The data generated from the learner outcomes actively flows backward to refine the internal development process. In the modern corporate environment, adopting new delivery methods is insufficient on its own. Upper management requires documented proof of performance. Launching a microlearning initiative without the internal capacity to scale and sustain it is a guaranteed path to failure. The true advantage of microlearning is the ability to continuously refresh content as business needs evolve. But that agility relies entirely on a functional measurement infrastructure. And that evaluation plan has to be socialized with leadership early, ensuring line managers are prepared to participate rather than rejecting the assessments due to survey fatigue. Build the evaluation framework before you author a single piece of content, because actionable data is the only currency that will secure your department's future success.